at making a big mark globally with the AI Summit 2026. It has received huge participation globally from various countries and different corporations. To talk about the implications of all of this and the roadmap ahead, with us is Nitin Seth, who's a tech entrepreneur as well as, of course, a best-selling author, particularly on subjects related to data and AI. Thank you so much for joining us here in the studio, Nitin Seth. And let me begin by asking you, before we start on your book, I want you to talk about the recent AI Impact Summit 2026, because India has just wrapped up this massive AI summit. It has huge participation from over 100 countries and now ranks third in Stanford's AI Vibrancy Index, ahead of UK and South Korea. Do you believe India is truly ready to lead the global AI race? Is there still a gap between the headline momentum and the ground level capability in your view?
I think the opportunity for India with AI is immense. This is so much so that I often call it India's second independence movement. It may seem like that US and China are ahead, but I think there's a long way to go. There's a long way to go, and India, for many reasons, is well placed. And the India AI Summit was a great way of mobilizing attention, mobilizing external attention, but equally internally. We had more than 5 lakh people, lots of young people, and I think the Prime Minister was very clear in giving a very clear-headed call that we have to embrace AI. But at the same time, I think all that mobilization and excitement, should not take away from the reality that we have a long way to go. AI is a double-edged sword. It's a huge opportunity, which is what we have to embrace. But it also is a big challenge. It will have impact on jobs, and I'm sure in this conversation we'll get to that. And it is also, there is a lot to be done for India to figure out its kind of game, its approach with AI. So there is a lot of substantive problem solving, conversations and work needed. So the heady excitement of the India AI Summit, great, congratulations to everybody, but a lot of work ahead.
Yeah, but you mentioned US, China's traditional advantage when it comes to this area. We've seen some Indian AI models and companies that have been showcased. We're talking about 10,000 crores of investment in this particular area as well. How quickly do you think Indian AI companies will be able to sort of make a mark? And of course, the kind of roadmap ahead for the Indian AI companies is going to be very different from the kind of global AI companies and corporations, the big tech corporations that we've been seeing so far. How are you seeing all of that evolving?
See, when we say AI, Madhav, AI is happening at multiple levels. So you have, right now when we say AI, we are really talking about the infrastructure layer. And a lot of, too much attention perhaps is put there, on LLMs and, the foundation models and so on. But there is a lot above that, where there is, the game is yet to be played out, which is all the applications, all the use cases. So very simplistically, think of it as cars and roads. So right now, it's the roads that are being laid out. Cars are just beginning to come onto the roads. There is a dual opportunity and I think imperative for India. So on the infrastructure side, see, in today's day and age, this whole notion of a completely seamless, globally integrated world, that is broken. So it is important that we have our sovereign AI. It is important. But we should recognize, Madhav, that that's not a winning formula. That is unlikely to be a winning formula. LLMs have already, there are 150 of them. Yeah. So we can build something which is good. We can build something which captures the regional languages. I think an opportunity there is what I call frugal AI. That the American model of AI is very, very consumption intensive, very capital intensive. It has implications from an energy perspective, but also from an economic viability perspective. So on that infrastructure layer, I think that's our opportunity, something which is sovereign, something which is frugal AI. But the much bigger opportunity is the one above. That how do we use AI to solve the many opportunities or many problem states across industries? Not just the traditional ones like retail and financial services, but education, healthcare, agriculture. these are industries I feel very excited by, because this is not just about, it is about economic growth, but this is also about social good. So that is the layer, where I think is the opportunity for India.
Here is also where, while you have argued the impact on jobs is likely, people, like the traditional job is going, we're going to see more entrepreneurs coming in. Is it areas like healthcare, education, where you see a lot more opportunity, A, on the side of achieving the social goals, and B, in terms of creating new opportunities for jobs and employment?
100%. 100%. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, Madhav, that jobs are going to go, and no amount of soft pedaling that is going to avoid it. So my research is that over the next 15 years, 35 to 50% of all jobs will go. 90 to 98% will impact it, including your job and my job. And those are big numbers, and the impact on the services sector, the white collar jobs, is going to be more. So the impact for India is going to be more. But equally, AI is going to disrupt every industry, Madhav, every industry. And that disruption is going to create hundreds or maybe thousands, hundreds of thousands of opportunities. And it is not necessarily the large companies that are well placed. In fact, I would argue that they have a challenge, because the disruption will be too much for the large companies. That is the opportunity for entrepreneurs, for startup, and that is the opportunity that India should focus on.
How would you see governments and big corporations approaching this? Because we are talking about disruptions about 30, 40, in some cases even 80, 90%. How are you looking at governments and big corporations handling that challenge? Because in India as well, we've seen, for instance, even basic IT services, for instance, there's been a sort of cooling down in terms of the numbers that they are hiring. How are you seeing all of this involved?
See, it's different parts to this. One is, implications on the Indian tech services, which, I'm also part of that. So I think the implication there is pretty significant. It's pretty significant, because it's not just about jobs, Madhav. The entire model of tech services, which is anchored on execution, basically. And an execution which is labor talent based is getting challenged, and it requires the industry to very rapidly evolve and develop a new model. And I think right now where I see is that there is awareness, but perhaps there is also a lot of anxiety. I think over the last 12 months, I've been talking about it for at least 12 months, that look, we have to see, where it is going, and we have to be ready. I think in 12 months now, I think the industry is becoming more aware. But my own view is that the clarity of thought and the nature of actions, transformative actions that are needed are still not there. I think still there is ambiguity. So at least my encouragement is that we need to take even stronger actions. I think the government, as what I can see is really the intent is very powerful. The intent is very powerful, and on paper, the India AI initiative and its various pillars are very, very solid. But again, the magnitude of the challenge is very high, Madhav. And I think the challenge for us from a national perspective is that before we create the entrepreneur wave, we might see the job losses.
Right.
And there is perhaps going to be a gap, which is going to be very, very disruptive. And so we need to increase the amplitude of our efforts, by an order of magnitude. I would submit that 10,000 crores, very good, but I would submit that it needs to be at least 10x of that.
10x of that. That's a huge ask, but let's see. Let's hope the government's listening to you. But in your book, when you're talking about the human edge in the AI age, you focused on the human side and human emotions and qualities that will actually determine who's successful or not. You've referred to, for instance, creativity, empathy, and human judgment that are going to define winners in the AI era. How are you looking at organizations building on these capabilities, particularly when you look at AI models that are going to come up in the future? And how can they actually actively build these in? Because are these, in today's AI environment, for instance, while we see some amount of empathy and engagement from certain AI models, do you think that this is going to be something that's going to be very much part of who will succeed or who will fail?
See, we need to recognize that the AI models, especially the frontier models, are evolving at a tremendous pace, Madhav.
True.
So, you have to recalibrate, what they can do almost on a fortnightly basis. Um, as far as AI and humans are concerned, you cannot deal with 0 and 1. This is something only AI will do. This is only something humans will do. That's very limited. Now, if you look at the core things that you spoke about, problem solving, creativity, empathy, in each of these dimensions, AI is making a lot of progress, yeah, including empathy. But at the same time, there is, AI is very good with specific tasks. Humans are very good when the things are broad and ambiguous. Yeah. So, see, human potential is infinite. We are operating only at a fraction of the human potential. Yeah. So I think our focus needs to be how we are leveraging more of that. And let me give you a very concrete kind of framework, if I may. I call it the 4C framework. So the first C is context. So now when we say AI, now frontier models are able to deliver anywhere from 50, 60 to maybe 80% of what is required. And there is still a gap. And that gap is about context. And that is where the human comes in. And that is where you would hear human in the loop. So when you say human in the loop, it is about context. And that context, Madhav, is not about the technical skills. It is about your domain or situation understanding. So that's number one. Number two is that when you think about it over a period of time, any process, AI will learn, and it will also learn context. So actually, over a period of time, the human requirement in the loop will go down. And then what will be required is human above the loop, which is how, as humans, we are reimagining what is to be done. And that calls for creativity, curiosity. That's the second C. The third is courage. Because, what we are talking about, Madhav, is reinvention, not just modernization. That needs a lot of courage. And the fourth C is connection, which is the human connection. Because we are sitting here, we are chatting, and it sparks ideas. It feeds into both context and the creativity. So those are the 4 C's to really focus on.
Yeah, you also spoke about the human edge. When you speak about how this will happen, you speak about the adventurous spirit of the early man evolving towards a superman or a state of higher consciousness. You're talking about the human edge as not just being a single point of balance, but a constant tension between, sort of survival instincts and spiritual aspirations. Is there a sense that somewhere or the other, this spirit has died down and it's now going to be recharged in a different way?
Yes.
How are you looking at that?
No, this is not. Thanks for bringing out that point. That's the crux of my thesis. That over the past, see, intrinsically as humans, we are very adaptive. We are risk takers, and that's best reflected in the pioneering instincts of the early man. But with the progress of civilization, those instincts have got dulled. We have come into a comfort zone. We have become more risk averse. A lot of thinkers, especially Yuval Noah, have talked about it. But the world that we have carefully constructed over, especially the last couple of 100 years post-industrial revolution, is going to get deconstructed in the next 10 years.
Wow.
And it's not just business and industry, but also society, Madhav. And it's not to say that we're going to go back to the caves, but this is a brave new world. And that's where the pioneering instincts are very important. And that's what I say, we have to go back to the survival instincts of the early man, which have got dulled. At the same time, we talked about creativity. And creativity needs an expanded consciousness. AI is also good at creativity. Yeah, I could be having this conversation with AI as well. Yeah, but still, humans have a huge opportunity with creativity, but it needs that expanded consciousness, and that's where the Superman. And at least in our Indian context, our thinkers have been talking about expansion of consciousness for a long time. Sri Aurobindo, even 100 years back, was talking about Superman and the growth of consciousness, and that's where I'm coming from. We need a combination. We need the duality, which is the pioneering instincts of the early man, combined with the expanded consciousness of, let's say, the Superman.
That's a very, very interesting way of looking at it, because that's, you believe that also you talk about how spiritualism becomes that much more important in the age of AI. Is it because of the overload of information? Is it because of the rapid pace with which things will be processed, and the pace of life itself becoming a lot more hectic? How are you looking at that, and why do you talk so extensively about that spiritual aspect?
Yeah, it's, as you're aware, that I've created this framework possible, which are eight, what I call timeless human mantras, and one of my critical ones, S is spirituality. And, spirituality to me is this process of going inside yourself. And it is super critical, and I think is going to be the X factor for three reasons. The first is that the AI age is the age of noise. And it kind of clouds us. And going inside yourself is how you get clarity. And clarity improves decision making. The second is, we spoke about creativity and the expanded consciousness. And where does that expanded consciousness come from? It is also that process of going inside yourself that kind of, you see the big picture, it opens up your mind. The third is that AI is also the age of fear. There is a lot of anxiety. We can't run away from that. And that anxiety, it's not clear. Anybody who says that it's going to happen exactly this way, no, he doesn't know, or, is kidding himself. That, so it's a lot of ambiguity that creates fear. And spirituality is a way of grounding yourself, of centering yourself, and that's how you get the strength. So, so there are multiple reasons, why I believe that spirituality is an X factor. And again, I think for India, given that, this is, spirituality, so we are relatively more comfortable with it than many other societies. I think this is a potential winning factor for us.
But you said two things very scary for me. You said that AI could be replacing me very soon, 98%, and you said you could be talking to AI. I know there are AI anchors out there, but for the sake of our viewers, how do you see AI impacting on news and news gathering? One obvious option that, and we see some extent of that, is how it can be sort of curated and it can be optimized to a person's own preferences. But how do you see that process, and how news is consumed, how it's presented, changing?
It's, I think it works, both the positive and the negative opportunities. As you said, there is opportunity of curating news. I think there is the entire production process. Many of your, peers, colleagues have now set up like single person, studios.
Yes.
And if you talk to them, they will tell you that they are using AI very heavily. And I've had this conversation with some of them. So it can make possible for a single person, what needs like a full team. You could also argue that, the AI, the conversation can be more comprehensive. It can also be without biases. But equally, there is the risk of, deep fakes, of, AI could potentially take the bias, out. But right now, it's also introducing biases. We see with social media how it has further led to a polarization of political views.
Right.
So I think both aspects are there. My general view on the creative process, Madhav, is that AI can be very helpful as an input. It can very quickly, it can reduce the cost and effort of getting something out. But for really high quality, output, which is, Madhav, what you do, the human edge will still be very significant.
Yeah. Another thing that, you've been mentioning, and I'm very curious about, as AI becomes more sort of the EQ, apart from the IQ aspect of it, becomes more and more evolved, how far do you see AI in terms of developing those sort of human qualities? Because all that we are discussing, human emotions essentially and human responses, how much of that will be more and more embedded in our AI and make it that much more realistic in terms of the experience, whether we're talking about interacting with a news product or interacting with a video product, how much of that will actually replace? Because the very fact that you mentioned deep fakes are going to become even more fake or even more realistic, that's actually a very scary thought.
Yeah. See, when we think about AI, we have to, Madhav, go away from 0 and 1 thinking. That emotions human, and EQ human, IQ AI. That's not the case. See, See, what AI is doing is that it is breaking, let's say, EQ into its component parts. The entirety of EQ, see, humans are very good at the entirety. Humans are very good with something which is broad. We are very good at something which is not well defined. We are very good with context. We spoke about context earlier. AI is very good with anything which is specific. So what's happening is that it's breaking down EQ, one aspect which is empathy. And what is empathy? Empathy is kind of reflecting your emotions. AI is very good at that. So what's the number one use case for ChatGPT globally? It is companionship.
Wow.
It is companionship. I was just talking to a reporter yesterday at NTLF, the NASSCOM event in Mumbai, and she was telling me that ChatGPT is replacing me for my husband. It was a pretty...
Okay, that's even more scary than replacing news anchors.
So, but there is a lot of research around this, okay? So, a lot of research around...
There's some cases people have actually committed suicide also while interacting.
That's the risk.
That's a really huge risk.
That's a risk. And see, there has been a lot of research around patients and online counseling. So online counseling with AI and human. 9 times out of 10, the AI showed more empathy.
Wow.
That is still, the patient did not know what was AI, what was human. The moment they came to know, they said, oh no, the human is better. Right. So look, it is inevitable that the different aspects, of, what we saw as, very intrinsically human, whether it is creativity or EQ, AI will keep on nibbling into it. We talk about AGI. That is what it is. AGI is not a sudden revelation. It's not a sudden unveil. It's kind of progressively, AI is becoming more and more competent, and it will keep on eating into some of these core human areas.
I love how you mentioned also, from the Bhagavad Gita, about how you do your duty without worrying about results, and explaining that. But, in today's age and situation where that, for instance, you talk about a CEO, how will he be able to not worry about the results quarter on quarter if he continues in this kind of a situation? Because the need to evolve, the need to change, and the need to be successful and commercially successful at that, these are going to be factors that existed earlier and will continue to exist in the future tomorrow.
See, it's not to say that I think the message of Bhagavad Gita that you're referring to is, I think, even more important today than ever. You see, the first part of that statement, karmanya vadikarasto ma phaleshu kadachna, is that you have to, your duty is your action. It doesn't mean that you should not be doing your action. Even more so, what it says is that you do not control the result. And Madhav, isn't that more true now than ever? Because, as a CEO, I can, really focus on my goals and what I need to do. But the variables today, especially in an AI world and the ambiguity it is causing, are so high that I cannot control that this outcome will happen. So, so we talked about spirituality earlier. I think that becomes even more relevant. It's a very important coping mechanism.
Right. One last question. You've also spoken about the perfectionism of Steve Jobs. You've spoken about the moonshot thinking of Elon Musk. You're talking about, the age of managers as well, where the rise of leaders who balance head and heart is concerned. Do you think that amongst all these different styles of management, the new manager that will evolve for the future will be one who's able to, keep or balance his head and heart, as you say? I mean, that's always been the case, but becomes that much more important when it comes to managing people in the future, because you'll be managing teams, you'll be managing them through AI perhaps.
Yeah, a lot of thoughts in that. So the first thing I would say, Madhav, is that AI age is not just the end of the era of jobs. It is also the end of the era of managers. Managers manage to some defined outcomes. In a world which is in such a flux, defining those outcomes clearly is very tough. So this is really, truly the age of leaders or even entrepreneurial leaders who are not driven by what is, but who are going to create. And to create, they will take risks. So that creating and risk taking are going to become extremely important. It's going to be a very tough journey. You can't do it alone, so you have to mobilize a team. While there is a lot of talk about single-person billion-dollar companies, that's good in theory, but it's a tough journey.
Yeah, it won't be easy.
So you need a team. So a leader also has to mobilize, has to inspire. And a lot of this means that you have to balance seemingly contradictory, conflicting emotions and objectives. On one hand, for your team, there is the fear of job losses, becoming redundant. On the other hand, you have to inspire them to create something new
and work harder.
So I think we have no choice. I think one of the most important leadership skills for this AI age, and I talk about that as part of my framework, is mastering duality. Is that you have no choice but to manage both sides. You can't just say machine not man or man not machine. Or short term, long term. You have to manage all of those. So mastering duality is going to be, AI is a huge opportunity, huge challenge, especially so for us in India. And I think we need to embrace and master that duality.
Thank you so much for taking the time out, Nitin Seth, explaining your book and these concepts, because all of this is going to play a very, very important role. A lot of interest in AI now. And thank you so much for breaking it down and at least trying to explain the future roadmap.